yeah, as Michael was saying, we're out here today. We're doing a bit of filming. We're installing some Canadian solar panels on the roof of one of the facilities out here, also on top of our new commercial tilt system. And we did a bit of filming and testing of the new universal clamps today, which was a bit of fun. I won't expose too much about that just yet. I'd like to just sort of expand on what you were talking about there, Glenn, and then ask the same question of you guys, Michael and Vincenzo, about Canadian Solar and their beginnings. So SolarQuip, can you tell me a bit about SolarQuip? Was it founded here, or was it something you brought here with you? Or
both, actually. It sort of was founded while I was driving from Sydney to Melbourne to live here in 2003. So I'm driving along. Well, my partner at the time was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and I was trying to think up a name for my company that I wanted to start when I arrived, and came up with SolarQuip. But really, the backstory is that I've lived off-grid since 1991, and I started doing a little bit of solar installation work for myself and then my neighbours and a few friends. And it wasn't until I came here I realised actually there's quite a big market for off-grid. So it was all about off-grid initially. So SolarQuip really was an off-grid installation business. Then on I think it was the 8th of May, 2007, I think it was, with the budget announcement of the $8,000 rebate, the whole market exploded. It was all about on-grid, grid-connected solar. And so that's where I moved to, was doing a lot of grid connect. But in the last 5 years or so, I've moved just into training. So all I do is training and consultancy here at the Smart Energy Lab, which is my facility. And there's been a bit of a change in the way that's been delivered too. I think this is something that you've noticed, that I used to do a lot of face-to-face training. But what I'm doing now is all online.
Okay, and so originally off-grid, and then there was a big shift to on-grid. What does it look like these days? Is it still, I mean, obviously it's still prominently on-grid solar, but is there a bit of a movement back towards off-grid these days that you're noticing at all? Or?
Well, certainly in this area, there's a lot of what we call fringe of grid. So the new builds in a rural area, there's power in the street, and the customer gets a quote to get power put on, $30,000, $40,000 to your front door, not even that, to the front of your paddock. And by the time you've paid for all the infrastructure to get power to a switchboard on your home, you're up for $50,000, $60,000. Now that's a budget that you can compete with a good quality standalone power system. So now off-grid is directly competing with on-grid in fringe of grid areas. The other area that's really exciting too is where there's capacity constraints. So customers, I've had a customer, for instance, who had a big home. They're using linear 200 kilowatt hours a day. They're on a swirl line, and a swirl line is like really capacity limited. So they had 10 kVA per phase. They just wanted more power, and they got a quote for $600,000 to upgrade the lines to their home. So there was the budget. I can remember the pitch, Glenn, there's your budget. And I said $599 comes to mind. So actually we could do a much bigger system. So, 46 kilowatts of solar, 300 kilowatt hours of batteries, and say goodbye to the grid.
Just on that, Glenn, what in God's earth were they doing that they needed 200 kilowatts per day? I mean, what's going on?
Don't ask.
What was it, a colony of sunbeds or something?
There was actually two people, so it wasn't just one person. There was two people in the house, and they did have a son who occasionally would visit. So I was told to budget another 30 kilowatt hours for when the son comes to stay. And when you walk in the house, you realise it was a big house. So it was, I think there was 10 split systems in the home, 3 stories high, full-sized underground bowling alley. Massive
impressive.
garage for all the Ferraris and things. Yeah, so they used a lot of energy.
Right.